So picture this. You're at the absolute peak of your career. You're part of one of the most beloved duos on the radio, and you decide to quit live on the air. That's exactly what happened. And today we're going to dig into the karjack legacy to figure out what on earth led to that moment. I mean, really, why would a radio star just quit when they're on top of the world? To get to the bottom of that, we actually have to go all the way back to the beginning. We need to see how the whole karjack phenomenon was built at Energy FM and, what it took to bring it all crashing down. Right, so before we jump into all the drama and the explosive ending, you really have to grasp just how massive the karjack phenomenon was. I mean, they weren't just hosting a radio show, they were building an actual empire. It's kind of funny to think about now, but before Papa Jackson and Gandankar showed up, Energy FM was, well, it was just another station. It had listeners, sure, but a pretty modest number. Their social media, barely a blip. It was a decent, standard station, but nothing special. And then, lightning struck. And wow, what a transformation. The karjack effect, as people called it, wasn't gradual. It was immediate, and it was huge. Their chemistry on the air was just electric. It didn't just attract listeners, it built this incredibly loyal community. All of a sudden, we're not talking about a small audience anymore. We're talking millions of fans. Social media engagement just went through the roof, like overnight. Awards started pouring in. And for the station, they basically single-handedly turned Energy FM into a money-making machine. But here's the thing. Their commitment went way beyond just what they did on the air. They made some serious sacrifices, and I mean big ones, all for the station they really loved. Yeah, this quote really gets to the heart of it. This wasn't just a business decision for them. It was personal. It was driven by a real love for the station. For them, this wasn't just a job. It was everything. And there's one example that shows this better than anything else. Okay, so get this. This is where their loyalty just becomes undeniable. They made the conscious choice not to build up their own personal brand. I mean, just stop and think about that. We're in an age where every single personality is trying to build their own platform, right? And these guys deliberately put the brakes on their own YouTube channel. The reason? They wanted to make sure every single fan, every view, every single penny went directly to Energy FM. That level of dedication is, well, it's practically unheard of today. But that incredible, almost unbelievable loyalty, it was about to be tested in a major way because everything was about to change. New management came in, and with them, a totally different way of doing things. So according to Papa Jackson's side of the story, that creative, freewheeling vibe that made them so successful, it just started to evaporate. In its place was this really strict, tense atmosphere. He even described it as feeling like workplace bullying. It put a huge amount of pressure on him and the whole team. And look, this wasn't just a change in the vibe of the office. No. This tension started to manifest in very specific ways. Actions that, from his perspective, seemed deliberately designed to undermine his role as station manager. It was like death by 1,000 cuts. It wasn't one big, dramatic blow-up. It was this string of just weird, confusing administrative hurdles. Can you imagine having to get special permission just to take your own stuff home? Or coming into work one day and finding you're locked out of your own office with no explanation? And forget talking things out. Communication was suddenly all about these cold, top-down memos. Each little thing just chipped away and chipped away at his authority. And that right there, that was the core of the problem. He had the title, right? Station manager. But he had none of the actual power to manage. It's like being the captain of a ship but not being allowed to touch the wheel. He couldn't really lead his team, couldn't make the important calls. As far as he was concerned, the title had become completely meaningless. So he was pushed to his breaking point, and he made a decision. On February 23rd, he was going to do something that would send shockwaves through the entire radio world, and he was going to do it using the one thing he still controlled, his microphone. Now, you might think resigning live on air is all about the drama, but for him, it was a calculated move. See, he'd witnessed a precedent. Another popular host, Chico Loco, had resigned quietly and was then apparently blocked from ever saying a proper goodbye to his fans on the air. Papa Jackson was afraid the exact same thing would happen to him, that he'd be silenced. So he used his live show, the one platform they couldn't take away in that moment, to make sure he could speak directly to his listeners and say farewell the way he wanted to. But regardless of how it all ended, you just can't argue with the legacy that karjack built. The impact they had on that station,
It's permanent.
I mean, just look at the stats. Their legacy is right there in the numbers. Millions of new listeners, a huge jump in revenue, a level of brand prestige and national recognition the station had never even dreamed of. It was, without a doubt, a golden era for Energy FM, and it was all built on the back of Karjack's connection with their fans. And that's what makes this whole ending so tough, at least from their perspective. I mean, after all those years of loyalty, after literally sacrificing their own personal brand to help build this empire, they felt like they were met with total disrespect, just completely unappreciated by the new leadership who were, reaping the rewards of all their hard work. So, all of this leaves us, and every single one of their fans, with one giant, lingering question. After building a radio empire and then walking away from it all in the most dramatic way possible, what in the world comes next for Karjack?